On a lonely hill on the edge of town stood the old house, known as Hillcrest. It was a relic of the past, decaying and shadowed, as if time had forgotten it. The villagers kept their distance, avoiding even a glance in its direction after dark. Stories of Hillcrest had been passed down for generations, ranging from ghost sightings to the mysterious deaths of its past residents. But for Lucas, a young paranormal investigator, Hillcrest was the challenge he had been waiting for. One autumn evening, as the wind blew cold and the sun sank behind the hill, he decided it was time to uncover the house's secrets. Lucas wasn't going alone. He was joined by two friends, Max, an engineer skilled in setting up surveillance equipment, and Sarah, a sensitive psychic with a gift for connecting with spirits. Together, they arrived at Hillcrest at dusk, the last rays of light barely piercing the twisted, bare trees. The house did not disappoint. The wooden door groaned with a bone-chilling creak as they pushed it open. Inside, time seemed frozen. The air was heavy with the scent of mold, and dust coated every surface. Old portraits hung crookedly on the walls, their painted eyes appearing to follow their every move. Their flashlights barely penetrated the gloom. Max got to work setting up equipment, placing infrared cameras in every corner and audio recorders to capture any strange sounds. Sarah, standing in the center of the living room, closed her eyes and breathed deeply, waiting for a sign from the other side. "We should split up and check the rooms," Lucas suggested, gripping his flashlight tightly. They agreed and began to explore the house's eerie, forgotten rooms. It didn't take long for things to feel wrong. Max, in the kitchen, heard a rhythmic tapping from beneath the floorboards. He tapped back, and the sound echoed in response, as if someone or something was answering from below. But the floor was solid, no trapdoors or entrances to be found. In the master bedroom, Sarah felt a strong presence. It was as though a cold breath slid past her shoulder. She stood before an old vanity mirror and suddenly glimpsed the reflection of a woman in white passing behind her. Startled, she turned quickly, but there was no one. The presence was palpable, its energy dark and unwelcoming. Meanwhile, Lucas, exploring the basement, discovered a hidden room behind a rotting wooden panel. Inside was a collection of odd items, an old Ouija board, faded family photographs, and in the middle of the room, a worn armchair with a dusty journal placed on it. Lucas opened the journal. The yellowed pages were fragile, but the writing was still legible. The journal belonged to a woman named Eliza, who had lived in the house in the late 1800s. She wrote about a happy life with her husband and daughter, but soon things turned dark. Eliza's husband, Victor, was a scientist obsessed with contacting the spirit world. He conducted rituals and experiments in the house, trying to open a doorway to the afterlife. But one day, after a ritual went horribly wrong, something terrible entered their home. It was not the spirits of loved ones, but a malevolent force. From that moment, mysterious deaths followed, first their daughter, then Victor. Eliza, paralyzed with fear, never left the house, believing that if she did, her spirit would never find peace. She died a horrible death within the house, her soul trapped alongside the evil entity Victor had accidentally summoned. As Lucas read the final pages, a cold gust blew through the room, and all the flashlights flickered and went out. He heard a slow, rasping breath behind him. His heart pounded as he turned, but there was nothing, only darkness. Suddenly, Sarah screamed from upstairs. Lucas and Max rushed to find her standing in the middle of the room, her eyes wide with terror. "It's awake," she whispered, her voice trembling. "That entity, it's here." The three stood frozen as the house began to tremble. The walls creaked, and the air grew impossibly thick. Furniture shifted, windows slammed shut. Lucas realized they had unintentionally awakened the force that had been trapped for so long. Max ran to the front door, trying to open it, but it was locked tight, as if sealed from the outside. "We need to get out now," he shouted, struggling to stay calm. But every exit was blocked. The house had become a prison, trapping them in the nightmare. Sarah grabbed Lucas's hand, her voice urgent. "There's only one way out. We have to face it." She led them down to the basement, back to the hidden room. Sarah began to recite a ritual she found in the journal, attempting to seal the doorway Victor had opened. But as she spoke the words, the entity appeared, a massive shadow, its red eyes glowing with hatred. Max activated the ultrasonic devices, hoping to weaken the entity. But it was too strong. The house shook violently as the shadow surged toward them. Lucas, clutching the journal, yelled, "Leave!" and threw it into the roaring fire in the room. As the journal burned, the shadow shrieked in rage, dissolving into smoke and disappearing into the flames. Silence fell. The house stopped shaking. The front door creaked open and they stepped out, free at last from the haunted house. Hillcrest stood once more as a decrepit, forgotten relic, but Lucas knew the horrors it held would never truly disappear. As they walked away, the hill was swallowed by darkness and the wind howled through the trees, a warning to those who might venture there in the future.